Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Centric. This being a show where I talk about TV shows that are crime dramas. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the season 3 finale of Mayor of Kingstown. Great season finale. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. I love how we start, in media res opening, where it's just like stuff is popping off at a bridge. You don't know who's shooting who, so it's like, okay, things are chaotic. We see Mike on the boat, which we know that's Constantine's boat, but the thing is, he came off that boat alone, so you're like, oh, this could go so many ways. I'll get to it when I get to it, but I've been talking about it the entire season of, like, especially episode 5 on, I've been like, there's a thing that's going to happen, that a dread's going to happen. It happens not the way I thought it would, but like I said, we'll get to that when we get to it. But just kind of letting those, obviously, just finished watching the episode, so emotions are raw. So just kind of like wanted to kind of preface that ahead of time. But I love that voiceover, him talking about, right, he took a plea. I don't think we knew that. Like, right, he took a plea deal because, like, the time he would have served would have been too heavy. And I think everything was kind of stacked against him. So it was like, right, just go ahead and take that plea bargain. And he's like, my mom was there, and he was like, the only time my mom visited me in prison was once, and that was telling me to survive. And he's like, I did that. I did a lot of things that would be considered evil by most moral standards, but I did. I survived. And he's like, sometimes he was like, he felt like the moment he walked out, he was like, I wasn't the same man that walked in. I changed, and who he became. And I love that who's the person he's talking to, Anna, because when he looked at her and everything she was going through, what she did because of the man that killed her son, like, he sees so much of his mom in her, and he understands her so much, that I think for him it's like, we have no idea how often they've been talking since. Like, is this their first time talking since she was sentenced and stuff, or did we even know her sentencing? Because I don't think we saw the result of her trial. Because she could be just in jail, but maybe her sentencing hasn't. Because that might have been, I think that was her arraignment. No, it wasn't her arraignment. I don't remember if she got sentenced or not. I really don't remember. I don't know if they went through the whole jury process or not. But either way, I don't think she's going to court officially yet. So someone can correct me in the comments down below. But either way, I'm curious how often they've talked since. Because that's the last time we saw her in the show, was when Mike went to court, to see her situation. So for him to kind of talk about that, and he's just talking about who he's become on the outside, post prison and stuff. And it's like, he kind of says, there's not a lot of good here, and he doesn't count himself in that. But, and it's like, I do. She's like, the moment I met you and talked to you, I knew there was good in you. And she's like, I know your mom saw it. And she's like, I would feel the same way. I would tell the same thing to my son if it was him in your shoes. The fact is, you did your time, Mike. It's just it is that thing of, it's always been this noose around his neck that he can never quite shake, of who he became in prison, and why. It's like he was already, even in these circumstances that led up to him being in prison, that Mike is still so different from who he was on the inside, who he was on the outside, because he's always tried to claw at, especially the middle road of what he's done as mayor has always been this balancing act of trying to claim who he, claw back to who he was versus who he became, trying not to let that take over, has been this internal struggle Mike's dealt with this entire time. And this is the first time I feel like, it's always been there, like I said, in his actions in both sides of the law, him trying to keep some form of peace, I think really showcases that. But I think this is the first time he's ever really outwardly talked about it to such an extent. And I do think it's interesting. Who does he talk to about it? None other than Anna, under her circumstances, because like I said, he sees a lot of his mom in her. Because I don't know if he'd even have these conversations with his mom, because there's so much that he's even admitted, he didn't know his mom the way he wished he did, because he always kind of take things for granted. But also he kept her distance, because he's like, when I came out of prison, she kept her distance from me like I was a stranger, and he kind of felt that. But it's like, she did what she needed to, I guess, to ease his burden of what he had to deal with, whatever he had to do to survive. I'm not going to judge you for it. Maybe in Mike's eyes, he judged himself through the lens of, my mom would be disappointed in me. I know by my mom's moral standards and her standards in general on what's right and what's wrong, she would not abide by what I've done. So I think that's also played a role in probably him keeping a distance from his mom and not being as close to her as he would, So there's that angle to it. while you also have Mike planning out his, work with Bunny as well as like Constantine. It's like, right, we're gonna, they're gonna lead Constantine's people into a trap and lay them out, and Mike is going to take out Constantine. And it's like, well, what happens to Kingstown afterwards? It's like, well, Mike's like, it'll be yours. There will be no one else to kind of have to deal with in the aftermath of that. So Bunny, because he's like, as long as you stay in Kingstown, because he's like, there are other monsters out there, bigger, scarier than you, that will come to get what you want. As long as if you try to go beyond the horizons that is Kingstown, settle for that, having all of Kingstown yourself. Because Bunny was like, what happens to us afterwards? And he was like, yeah, I will take care of Constantine. He's like, oh, with your own hands? You dirty your own hands? And Mike's like, there's nothing that could wash away all the blood that is on my hands. He's like, that's kind of where we are. You will run things and I will get some form of peace. It will be twisted, but it will be some form of peace. The closest thing you can get to peace in a place like Kingstown. And that's where we'll stand. So we find out about what happened to Roman. I thought what was going to happen to Roman was going to be like, Milo was going to keep him around a little longer. Nope. Put like the gas mask on him, because it's that whole thing of like depriving someone of their oxygen. It's meant to be a torture tactic. Fucking disemboweled him. His I think they chopped off one of his legs. I mean, I'm sure that's probably like where the bullet hit, so they probably had to like chop it off just to keep him alive, or part of the torture process. And they left his intestines hanging like nearly, I don't know if they actually touched the ground. They're paying pretty damn close, considering it's like sending a message. And it's like, well, could the Aryans have done it? It's like, no. Could it have been Constantine doing it to his own people? It's like, no, because anytime Constantine's left bodies, it's been clean. And so immediately, well, we know it's Milo, I guess, sending a message. And so the moment Mike showed up, because Constantine already had an idea of it being Milo, because he's like, bro, I can't get in contact with Roman. His loyalty is limitless. There's no way he'd run, But it's like, if something happened to him, Iris is like, should we run? And he was like, no. Well, you have a new start on life. You can run. Me, I'm shackled. There's no running for me. But the way he was talking about it, and Iris kind of got that vibe too. Like, she still held on to what Constantine said, regardless of what Mike being like, no, we saw Milo, he's dead. It's like, you never saw the body. You saw him get on a boat, but that doesn't mean anything. I mean, we've known since season 2's finale that Milo's still alive, whereas the others have believed him to be dead this entire time. So Iris was already ruminating on that with the Roman stuff, because she knows, like, wait, the way Constantine's acting, it's like he's thinking this might be Milo. So when Mike stops by, he's like, yeah, like, it's got to be Milo. It's like, oh, it's either the Corporeal or the Incorporeal that is coming after us. It's like, yeah, Milo. It's like, it's got to be him. And it's like, Mike at that moment kind of starts taking it serious. So it's like, right, dealing one thing at a time. Is like, maybe this is Milo. He just wasn't for sure. He's like, maybe Constantine's just spooky, like scared of ghosts type of thing, and that's all this is. The guy isn't in his right mind, as Mike has said. The guy like gets high all the time, so he might not be in his right mind. But he's like, right, the Bunny and Constantine stuff, that's something I can be a part of. The Milo thing, that's still up in the air, because I don't know if he's really, really bad. But either way, let me shut down this Constantine stuff. Like, I'm not going to worry too much about what he says. So, we have that. There are just so many storylines. Okay, we have the Ian situation really quickly. Let's deviate over to that, and then we'll kind of culminate everything. Ian is under the belief, like, okay, like, I'm good, I'm cleared, because they cleared him of the Charlie thing. He's like, yeah, I let my guard down. I was like, wow, you're getting away with this, because you straight up cold-blooded murdered him. But it's like, well, he's also a killer. To be fair, he did come lunging after you shot him, so it led to some validity to his story. To be fair, he's also a serial killer too, so he's unhinged, so it adds even more validity. But then Evelyn comes in being like, yeah, how many times did you take Charlie out? It's like, yes, like half a dozen. No, 7 exactly. You took him to the dentist. That's the same day Morrissey died. And it's like, Evelyn's not because they've dabbled about the whole, like, right, they've kind of grown up together. Like, I didn't remember Evelyn was in the middle of that, but it's like, yeah, we've kind of known each other. Kingstown is a small town in a lot of ways. Of like, everyone kind of knows each other to some extent, I think, but maybe it's just in general growing up, this trio of Mike, Ian, and Evelyn. But she's like, I'm not going to let all that twist me from, like, going after the truth. You killed an innocent man who was trying to do the right thing. in her eyes, it's like, this is a guy who's just trying to do the right thing, try to like get Robert taken down for being the monster that he is. And so Ian's got to struggle with that. He tells Mike everything, and Mike's like, what were you thinking, Ian? He was like, yo, just trying to help out Robert. I didn't think it turned into this. He's like, yeah, you brought a serial killer. He's like, yeah, I thought he scared a guy. It's like, cool. And it's like, well, did you bring the charger? He's like, yeah, but I didn't have my tags on. It's like, yeah, but it doesn't matter. You still, the whole situation is fucked. It's like, and Evelyn's coming after him, and Mike's like, no, duh, this is Evelyn. He's, even before he knew Ian was mixed up in all of this, it's still a thing of, yo, he's been trying to get Evelyn to drop this the entire season, you know? He's probably trying to get her to drop it last season too, and I just don't remember. I think definitely trying to get her to drop it last season as well, but it's like, he's been trying, and she, you know, he's kind of always been like, yeah, go at it, you know, but I guess she also hasn't been bringing it up too much around him just because she knows how he feels about it. But yeah, it's like, cool, my buddy Ian is in a tight spot, maybe my buddy Robert. Like I said, it's like, I still feel like he doesn't, I mean, obviously, like, he's a lot more loyal to Ian than he is Robert, in my opinion. Sure, he'll throw down and help out Robert, but it's still like his loyalty runs deeper for Ian than it would Robert. But it's still like, yeah, I got Robert's back. It feels like his only reason for helping out Robert is like because he doesn't want Ian. Because of the fallout that would, because this will all like start with Ian and it'll domino to Robert. But I think he also doesn't want Evelyn to get caught up in a crossfire because her targeting Robert, it's like, you are going to have so many targets on your back for doing that. Not just the rest of the squad. Other cops are going to look at you a certain way. It's like, they already do. So it's kind of for everyone's sake for her to drop this, but she won't. Like, she's like a shark smelling blood in the water. So that's kind of a no-go. So Robert got called, and now our group of Mike, Ian, Kyle, and Robert and talking this out about everything. And Robert makes it clear where he stands. Yo, Mike, you need to get her to back down or I'm going to do something. And Mike's like, you're not going to touch a fucking hair on her head. He's like, oh, so you're fucking her, aren't you? It's like, regardless of it, you killing a DA is the stupidest thing you can do. Evelyn's a DA, right? I believe she is. It's like, that's the dumbest thing you could do. Like, I'm sure you try and make it look like a robbery going wrong or something, like something random, but it's like, yeah, the person investigating who's kind of had it out for you, just, you know, it's going to look away. But also, it's like, even if it isn't someone that Mike is currently attached to, this is someone he has long history with. Someone, I would assume, maybe I'm wrong, but because they grew up together, I'd assume that history runs deeper than his history with you. So it's like, yeah, we're cool and everything, but we're not, oh, I'm totally okay with you going after Evelyn cool. You know, she's no-go on that. Also, we got the confrontation. Wasn't as bad as I thought it was. I was just worried Kyle would feel a certain way, and he does. It is that pride thing of, yo, this is my wife, and you didn't tell me, like, how did you handle it? He's like, I handled it the way I handled it. And for Kyle, it's like, what? So Tracy protects me, you protect Tracy? He's like, yeah, just don't, like, who am I supposed to protect? He's like, your family, day and night. That's your role in all of this. And like I said, it's just he feels, I think, once again, after everything with his mom too, I think he's just holding it against himself of like, I feel like I didn't do anything to protect my mom. Once again, he kind of shot his mom. So like he has extra onus on that. So he just feels extra motivated to try and protect his family just because he feels like he didn't protect someone he should have. Like in his eyes, I was like, oh, I failed to protect my mom. Failed to protect family. And I love that situation with Mike saying like, you are one of the few good things left in Kingstown. We're just everyone is just trying to protect that, which I think is interesting considering, like, I mean, they set that up just for the end of the episode, but we'll get to it when we get there. But it is that situation of Mike being like, you are my brother. I will protect you whether you want me to or not. It's like that's just the deal that we've been dealt. These are the roles we've been dealt. You're gonna have to deal with that whether you want it that way or not. So Kyle like kind of understands, but still it's kind of a sweet moment. Mike just being like, I'm your brother, man. I'm gonna protect you because I knew like if Tracy told you, and even Tracy knew, she told you some shit would happen. Luckily she told you after the fact, after Mike already handled it. Granted, Mike handling it's like, like, well, Kyle probably would have taken it further. Kyle probably wouldn't have had the onus of telling Ian to come along to stop me from going too far. But Mike handled it his way, and Kyle would have handled it his own way. But it's like, no, we don't need to stain your reputation anymore, because Mike is like, I'm me. I'm already stained. I'm already an issue. You are good. You are like, even you can make the argument with some of the cops in this town they're morally gray at the bare minimum, we could say that. Whereas Kyle like might have been a part of some stuff, but Kyle's been pretty good for the most part. So, which, staying on a Kyle, I love how nasty things kind of got between him and Robert, where Robert was like, yo, so Robert was kind of making a point of, yo, like, my family's my family and I love them, but the moment I put on this uniform, the SWAT team is my family. And you became a part of that family the moment you joined and everything. It's like, yada, yada, yada. It's like, well, how is Mike going to handle this Evelyn thing? He's like, he will handle it. Don't worry about it. Because he's like, yeah, I appreciate you giving me this chance and stuff. And then he's kind of telling Kyle, like, yeah, you kind of have to choose a side. He's like, when it becomes between you and your brother, me and this team and your brother, Kyle's looking like, why would it be that way, considering like Mike has kind of always had your back regardless of everything, Robert. He's continued to have your back all the way, but now it's like Robert's not in his right state of mind, and that's just adding to his like distrust of Mike. But it's like you're legitimately asking a dude to choose. He's like, yeah, you have to draw sand. Kyle was like, no, I'm not. I just won't choose a side. He's like, you kind of have to. Like, we're at this point, the lines in the sand are being drawn. Are you going to choose us, or are you going to choose your brother? And now Kyle's like, did you ask me to join SWAT just so you could have leverage on my brother? I was like, I didn't even think about that being a possibility. And Robert was like, no, of course not. You're a good cop. It was like, but that look on his face, like he's trying so hard not to like reveal anything on his face, makes me feel like maybe there's validity to that. Maybe, because Robert's been dealing with this situation ever since last season. Once again, this is all byproducts of the riot stuff, but he's been dealing with the aftermath of it all of last season. And so that could have been something he was dealing with, especially because Evelyn, even this season, had not given it up. And Kyle didn't join until this. So it's like, now Kyle's always going to look at Robert a certain way, like, yo, the way you're going at my brother, trying to make me choose between my brother and you. It's like, Kyle will never say it because he can't say it, because it's like, yo, I would choose my brother hands down. It's like, he's family, that's my brother, especially because he knows, like, yo, Robert, my bro has always looked out for you, but now all of a sudden you turn a coattail on him? And Mike has tried to handle everything. He's done so much as the mayor, and it just feels like none of that matters to Robert right now. So I just thought that scene was great and intense. Staying in that vein, we do have the Emma, not Emma, because I was just thinking about Iris' actress, so that's why the name Emma just popped in my head. But the Evelyn and Mike conversation where Mike was like, yo, I'm telling you to back down again, please. But she's like, no. Like, she's like, I look around this town and I see good. He's like, oh, really? Because Mike is pessimistic. He sees how sinful this place is. Like, there is no good around. The very few spots of good he's trying to keep in their position. He's trying to keep that light in Kyle. He's trying to keep that in Evelyn as well, but it's also like, try not to get you caught up in some shit, because people will turn on you for doing this. And for her, it's like, I see good in me, and Mike doesn't see that in himself. He wants to be good. He tries to hold on to that. It's all about trying to be the least amount of evil, the lesser of evils in the grand scheme of things, but he recognizes the sins that he's committed. Mike might look at himself as a situation of, everyone else around me might be sinful, they might be monsters, but they recognize the monsters that they are. They never try to be anything else. Me, I'm a monster. I'm a wolf in sheep's clothing, trying so hard to be a sheep when that wolf is still buried so far deep inside. But also, that wolf bears its fangs so many times. How can it keep being a sheep? That's how, I know it's kind of a weird metaphor. I hope the point came across, but Mike doesn't see the good in himself like Evelyn tries to. So we had that. Then we had the whole situation between the Russians and the Crips, where, because they were supposed to go to a very specific spot, but I doubt constant seeing people. multiple people got trigger happy. Now, one was Bunny's guy saw one of Constantine's guys with his gun already out the window. Now, that doesn't mean he was going to pop off, but he was already getting a little itchy himself. And now, like, Bunny's guy saw, and so he started popping off. So it led to a literal firefight in a bridge. So many innocent people got caught in the middle of that. Like, so much traffic was blocked between them, and like so many people ducking down in their cars. Eventually, the firefight extends. It seems like most of Bunny's people are dead. Seems like the same thing for Constantine. Maybe all of them. We know at least one of them surrenders. I don't know if one of them that died was Cole or not. Because Cole was like, yo, you either kill, you die, or you take a dive like off the bridge. We didn't see anyone take the dive. That would have been my go-to move in that moment, but that's me. You know, I'm a coward by nature. But it seemed like everyone died except for like one of Bunny's people, but like everyone else seemed to be dead. Which that turned into that situation was already a clusterfuck, and then you add in on top of that is the whole situation of there's one particular father that's waiting in the car, like he has his hand on his gun, but his son is in the back. I was like, oh, because one of the people, like the moment I saw him with the gun, I was like, oh, is this gonna be one of Bunny's people who got in one of the cars and is pretending to be a civilian? But it's like, no, this guy is a civilian because he's here with his son. Luckily Kyle didn't pop off on him. But then I was worried because I was like, shit, one of the SWAT guys got hit and Kyle's helped drag him back. I was like, shit, Robert's going to go over to that guy and not know what's what and he's going to shoot him, isn't he? And it kind of turned into that. And Kyle had to be like, no, innocent. But Robert wasn't listening. He's like, he's like, dude, I'm scared. Like, a gun's in my face. I'm panicking. Like, I guess his hand was on the gun just because, like, he didn't know his shit was over and he's just scared. He's trying to calm down his son. It's just like a lot's happening all at once. And Kyle, blip, blip, blip. I was like, dude, he fucking shot Robert. I was like, dude, we find out later on, Robert's not dead. Most of them hit his vest. There's one that hit his neck, but he's stable. So that's fucked for Kyle, because regardless of how this plays out, he's fucked when it comes to SWAT. You can't go back to SWAT because you're on Robert's shit list, and the rest of the SWAT team is going to look at you. Like, you can't never, like, be sure that they're going to have your back. Plus, like, in general, like, what cop is going to want? It's like, oh, he shot another cop, because he tried to make it seem like it was a crossfire thing. But as we find out later on, it's like too many civilians and other officers saw that Kyle clearly did that. Like, Kyle felt like he had no other choice in that matter. He was trying to protect this innocent, because it wasn't just going to be an innocent dad that was going to be killed. That son would have witnessed his father dying in front of him. If not, I mean, I doubt Robert would have ended up shooting the son, but you never know with stray bullets and shit. But I think it still would have been like, yo, an innocent man would have died. So it would have turned into Kyle stopped your situation from becoming nastier. I hope that when it comes down to it, that father is like, yo, that guy saved my life. That cop was ready to shoot me if Kyle hadn't done what he did. There's always a possibility for that, but that's where I was talking about. The sad thing is of like, Kyle tried to do the right thing, tried to be good, and see where that landed him. Once again, Robert's not dead, but he still did what he did, and him trying so hard to find his place here, like finally getting here to SWAT and enjoying it. I thought Robert was done. I didn't know what the situation was going to be. I thought maybe it'd work out for everyone if Robert got killed, like during a shootout or something like that. Not even by Kyle, but just in general by like the Russians or the Crips. Like, I thought that kind of make it easier for everyone. But now it's even more of a clusterfuck situation in aftermath of this. Because I was thinking like Kyle was going to take up like Robert's position going forward with I thought he'd end up replacing Robert. I knew Robert would never step down willingly. So no telling what that situation would turn into in the future. So we have that. We also have Milo finally revealing himself to Constantine and Iris when he strolls up, because it turns out Alex, who was like his main girl, was like, oh, cool. So you thought you got rid of all of the people that were loyal to Milo, but no, like there's been one by your side the entire season. So I was like, interesting. So yeah, and his other loyal people are, because there was like gunshots heard like as they went above, like when they went up on top of the boat. So it's like, yeah, anyone else loyal to him is dead. So I love Iris. Iris is like, yo, I'm go down swinging. She just kind of like, right. He's like, oh, Milo's like, take a seat. He's like, I'm not going to sit beside you. So, and he reveals the whole Mike thing in front of Constantine, which comes as a shock. But Iris didn't miss a beat. And he's like, oh, you got that sharp tongue. Did she get it from you, Constantine? And she's like, no, I got it from Mike. I was like, ooh. Yo, Iris, no fucks given, because she's like, right, you're gonna kill me anyway. I don't care. He's like, oh, I'll call Mike. If I wanted to kill Mike, if I wanted to hurt him, he'd be dead by now. And Iris is like, no, I'm not going to drag Mike into this, because I think for her it's like, this is my mess, and let it rest with me. I don't want to drag Mike more into this, because she already feels like, right, because the Milo thing, that whole situation led to Miriam's death. So it's like, I'm not about to let that happen again. So Mike finds out about Milo, heads over. And Milo lets Mike know what's what. He's like, okay, I want us to go back to the way things were. It's like, motherfucker, what? No. There ain't no going back after this. He's like, you might as well kill me now, Milo, because the moment I get a chance, I'm going to put a bullet in you. And he's just like, okay, Iris can go free, but all she has to do is do one thing for me. She has to kill Constantine, which is like, Iris has a very, I think there's twofold to it. One, she doesn't want to have blood on her hands, so there's that. And I don't think Mike wanted her to have blood on her hands. But it's also the element of, regardless of everything with her and Constantine, it's still the thing of, there's still love there, even as warped as it is. Because she even says, like, yo, he's the one that turned her out and made her, set her down this path. Like, yeah, Milo used her the way he did, and he's a piece of shit for it. But it's like, this all started with Constantine. He's the one that made Iris. So there's still some, like, I don't know if you call it Stockholm, but it's just kind of like, right, this has been our thing, our rodeo. Yeah, I'm helping Mike take you down, but it's still the thing of me being the one to take you down personally is still kind of a step too far. It's still harder for me. Like I said, I just think, like I said, neither her nor Mike wanted blood on her hands, but Constantine was like, right, if it means you survive, then go ahead and put a bullet in my head. And he forced her hand when he called her by her real name, which I thought was interesting. He said Hannah, which I'm like, this is our first time hearing her real name. And she blew his brains out. Because one thing that never came up, that we're not sure of, Ian's the only one who knows the truth, is Ian knows that Iris did something that she helped, like, that Ian made disappear earlier in the season. So it's something she never wanted Mike to know. So I'm wondering where that stands in the grand scheme of things. We'll touch back on that subject later, but she did it, and now it's like Mike is asking her to leave, especially when Ian shows, well, because it's like, right, Iris gets to leave, and he's like, okay, you leave and don't ever come back. But she's like, no. He's like, yes, because I don't want, this town is no good for you. He's like, you staying here for me is not a good enough reason to stay anymore. Because she's like, this place is not good. I am not good. Go live your life, Iris. And it's because I think she owes Mike in a lot of ways. And I think it is true. Like, right, she does have feelings for him too. Like, that cannot be discounted. And that's why Mike has done his best to keep her at a distance. And she also has to think about what, oh God, I'm blanking on her name now. I feel so bad. Rebecca. Oh God, I'm glad I remembered it last second. What Rebecca told her, was it last episode or the episode before last? It's like, Mike is giving you an out. Take it. Because she's like, just like Mitch gave me one. So she took it, and so did, it's like, if you want to save Mike, go. Like, don't try to stay to save Mike. You'll be saving Mike, and he'll be better off knowing that you're out there in the world, okay, living some life, whatever that may be, as long as it's away from Kingstown, as long as it's away from all this bullshit. But then Mike grabbed Iris, the gun she used to kill Constantine, because Milo knew smart enough to only put one bullet in the chamber. But then all of a sudden, threw it at him. Grabbed it, they wrestled over his gun, and he proceeded to pistol whip Milo. And luckily Ian showed up, took care of those upstairs, and took off with Iris. Granted, we saw Alex was like ducked down below, so she's still there, which I'm like, nobody took care of her. So maybe after Ian and Iris left, she bounced, or maybe in the middle of, like, I don't know, like, because last time we saw her, she was like ducking down behind the bar. That was the last time we saw her. I was like, so she's still out there. So the time comes, once again, Milo's like, yo, we're the same. Like, the fact of the matter is, we could kind of keep it going. But for him, it's like, dude, you blew up a car at my mom's funeral, and all those girls you dumped in the river. He was like, first and foremost, he's like, I needed an accelerant to get to where we are, and also I needed to hurt Constantine with that bit. He's like, what bothered you most, the gender or the age? And it's like, fuck you, Milo. And he's like, right, I know you, Mike, because we're the same, you know, you and I. And he was just kind of like, yeah, but he's like, there's a point where you just crossed it. There is no going back, and we've both crossed that. He's like, have we really, Mike? He's like, once again, I know you won't blame me for your mom's death, but she's not dead because, and he's like, shot him, and just like, so you were saying something about my mom? He's like, you were the one that got her. Bam! Just shut that shit down right there. First and foremost, Mike already blames himself. He doesn't need you. This is also on you, Milo, for making the moves you made last season, so fuck you. Because we got a little insight to that. I want to take a step back. I should have talked about it a little earlier, but obviously it's like, right, you were sitting down here for a specific reason. Milo did his own thing, got himself arrested, yada, 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 yada. It's just kind of some more an insight into the group that they belong with. Like, this doesn't end with Constantine and Milo. There are still higher ups that they answer to. So I don't know if anyone else from that organization is going to come down to Kingstown to figure out like what the fuck happened. But it's like, well, they find out about Milo killing Constantine. They'll kind of maybe wrap that all up in a bow. Because like there's no one left now that Constantine's been removed from the board. But like I said, it could easily be a thing of someone else from that organization decides to pay some attention to Kingstown. I don't know. But after that was all said and done, Mike had to deal with the Kyle thing, which he's asking Evelyn to do something about. But Evelyn's like, I can't do anything about it. Your brother not only shot someone, it was a cop he shot. No one's above the rules. So now it's like, well, they can't hold Kyle, but we see him being like taken off by the car, and it's just like, oh, Jesus. We see Iris on the bus. I was getting nervous. I was like, dude, there's too much time left in this damn episode for shit to be like all polished. Everything's fun, honky-dory. And then we get this like gut punch of, now, it looked like she was moving a little bit, but maybe that was me just being, I was like warping my reality just to make it, because I was like, she fucking overdosed. Because they brought that forward, because I think she was using some of Miriam's pills when she was with Constantine. So this isn't the first time she's brought them back, but it is the thing of them being used yet again full circle. And it's just because I guess she felt like she had nothing left. Like without Mike, it's like, well, what's there? Like what? Like she's always going to have that darkness in her. Now, now having killed Constantine, it's just Mike didn't want her to be here, and like he wanted to set her free in a way that no one else would have. Like, oh yeah, Milo's going to set her free, but it's always there would have been strings attached. That's why she never took Constantine's approach. But it's also because she wanted to stay for Mike, you know. So that wasn't just for his sake; that was for her own sake. But Mike's letting her go, you know, for her own sake. So it seems like she's dead. That's why I was so shocked, because I was like, I thought like Milo was going to kill her, Constantine was going to find out about her and kill her. Even upon finding her out, I mean, at that point, Milo's got both of you, but he's kind of calm and react. He's like, oh, it's shit. Well, here we are. I can't really do much about it. It's like, well, I'm more focused on the Milo thing than your betrayal, but either way, it's sad for it to end that way, but I knew like her story was going to end tragically. That story set up to end tragically. So, like I said, it seemed like I said, I don't know if that was me reading too much into it, but like it looked like she's probably been dead for a while, because I think because last time we saw her, she was like staring out the window, and then like the next shot of that scene is like her dead. So either like she had already like, I'd assume like if you're overdosing, I would assume it would hit you immediately. Once again, I've never overdosed, never taken drugs, so I can't speak on personal experience. But I'm assuming like after that shot we saw of her just staring outside, she immediately took the rest, because she was just drowning in pain, and it's just like that's the only way she could remedy it. Because I think it's like maybe she's like, at least Mike I keep my promise to him. I'm never coming back to Kingstown. He can at least keep some belief and hope that I'm still alive and I'm out there and fine. And I get to like just erase myself from everything. So he doesn't ever find out the truth about me. Maybe. Because the sad thing is, this is happening at the same time Mike makes his way out to his cabin where there's no service. He gets just away from everything. The shit show situation, the chaotic situation that was this episode from top to bottom. One of the most fucked 12 hours in Mike's life, I'm sure. So... oh my God, I completely forgot too. I was so focused on that. I was like, I was about to wrap things up, and then I had to remind myself, oh yeah, there's another part of the story you haven't talked about, fuckface, the Kareem situation. So let's keep the depression train running, where we had Kareem, first scene of the episode with Kareem, has a gun in his hand. They take that shot from outside, you're like, oh fuck, he's about to do it, isn't it? And then he opens the door, like, oh, they shot that on purpose like that, no pun intended. Just to like make you feel that way. So now he's running through the tapes of the video stuff, and I was like, oh, Kevin. I think I even said it at the time. Kevin, you took off your hat. I didn't even realize at the time he gave a nod to Cole, but it's like, yo, you didn't just take off your like beanie or whatever. You also nodded, and Kareem picked up on it. He wouldn't have looked further if it wasn't for Home Dude last episode, like bringing up like, yo, whoever came after Callahan, which we don't know what his current situation is. I mean, I'm sure he's still in the hospital because his shit is fucked. His shit was rocked. So he's definitely not getting out of like any medical situation, but he's still alive. Because the last time we saw him was like, wasn't it Kino like arresting him again? I think that's the last time we saw him after like Raph's like failed attempt to kill him. So it wasn't in this episode at all. But Kareem finds out about Kevin and confronts Kevin. And Kevin knows by the end, like, oh, my... because they had this whole conversation about a warden in the 80s who was corrupt. And it's like, yeah, he got his comeuppance. And it's just kind of like... it was this conversation about the system. Kevin's coming from the perspective of, oh, the system is innately corrupt. That ain't that how the system works? And Kareem's like, no, it's not. Like, trying to make money from the system and choosing profit over just doing your job. But it's like, isn't that how that works? It's like, no, the system isn't meant to work that way. It's corrupted. And Kareem is kind of like, that doesn't have to be where things stand. And he basically tells Kevin straight up, like, Bunny, like, you shouldn't have to feel such loyalty to Bunny. Like, we shouldn't have to be loyal to people that might have done stuff for us. And telling him, like, yo, when the time comes, Bunny will use you and toss you away when necessary. And that is something for Kevin to think about. But it's also like, shit, Kareem knows. Not only does he know, he knows I'm related to Bunny. Because Kareem, like, he told Kareem early on in the season, like, yo, I have family that's locked up. But he never, like, I've had family that's been to jail. But he never expressly told him, like, oh, Bunny's my family. He now, I guess because of that, he knows, like, maybe he didn't find any familial stuff. Maybe he kind of looked it up and found out they're related. Or maybe he's just putting two to two together. For you to have loyalty to Bunny like that must mean that you must be family to him. So there's that. And then Kareem is saying what he's saying to his family. He's checking in on, it's like, oh, you're going to therapy and stuff like that. Good. Let me talk to your mom. It's good that you're doing the work. And it's like, oh, like, tell my son I love him. I was like, what the fuck are you about to do, Kareem? And he goes out and he's like, oh yeah, there's a prisoner down. I'm like, there's nobody down. What are you doing, Kareem? And then I know it's like, oh, cool. You're going into a specific area that all the Aryans are at. And I was like, Kareem, what are you doing? Like, I was like, right, he couldn't bring himself to kill himself, so he's doing it in the line of duty. Because I don't know if that's like a pension thing where it's like, well, it might be an insurance policy thing. And that is like, because sadly, if you punch your own ticket, which I would never want anyone to do. Once again, suicide's always like that touchy subject for me. But it's like, if you can't do it yourself, like, create a situation that seems more organic, because that way, like, his family reaps any like benefits of like I said, I don't know if it's like a pension thing or a life insurance thing, but it's just also like, he can't live with, like, he has not been okay since the riots. He was on shaky ground all of last season. He was on shaky ground this season too, just barely hanging on, and it just finally just kind of snapped. And the Aryans are like, oh, and they stabbed the home dude, like Callahan's right hand dude, stabbed him up, and the others were like hitting and kicking him. And by the time they got there, Kareem was gone. I mean, I'm sure maybe there's a possibility of bringing him back, but I feel like after all of that, they're unlikely. Not unless we find out, like, oh, he's in a coma or something. I don't know. He seemed pretty dead, just like the Iris situation. So I don't know, like, who's going to be the new warden. They're going to bring someone in. I doubt Carney's going to be, like, promoted to that position. Who knows? I'm curious to see what Kevin feels in the aftermath of that, especially considering, like, well, this is after his conversation with me. So that's where things currently stand on that front. Then, like I said, the ending of the episode, Mike near his cabin, finishing that story of, it's like, right, I shed my skin to become who I was. I've done things that are evil by most standards, even my mom's. But he's like, does that make me an evil person? And even if it does, can I shed that skin again to be, someone else, to be who I was before? And it's like, can you? And that's going to be an eternal struggle. So who knows where things could go potentially from here. At the time of recording this, which I'm getting to this a couple days late, it is Wednesday afternoon. It's almost like 5 p.m. at the time of recording this in section here. And so this will be going up Thursday morning if I edit it and everything. So it still has not been announced whether there'll be a 4th season. It seems like the show's pretty, I don't know, ratings wise and stuff like that. Paramount could always end up pulling the plug on it just because, like, I don't know where Paramount's situation is currently. There's the whole buying and merging conversations that have been talked about, that if you follow that type of news and stuff. So I don't know where the show stands, but at the time you're recording, it's, like I said, it's only been like 2 days at this point in time since the finale aired. So it seems optimistic that there's going to be a 4th season. I don't know if that's going to be the final season, but at bare minimum we'll get another season, hopefully. Like I said, I'm saying that hopefully. Nothing's been confirmed, so I hope we get at least 1 or 2 more seasons. If next season ends up being the final season, perfectly fine with that. But if we get at least 2 more seasons, I'm perfectly fine with that too. I'm so curious to see what next season is like in the aftermath of all of this. Where do you go from here? Because now it's like Bunny's pretty much going to be running Kingstown. What does it mean for Mike going forward as he tries to shed his skin to be who he was before? Kyle's situation being jacked up as it is still in hot water because Robert's still in play and Evelyn's not backing down. So we shall see where all of this ends up taking us going forward in the next season. If we have one, like I said, fingers crossed, hoping we do. But really, that's all I wanted to talk about. So the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.